Hey, welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're in the Epic Times office, actually in New York right now. Different time as usual. Again, we're trying it out, so thanks for being here. We're going to have a special episode today. We're going to have Natalie Winters on. You might know her from National Pulse. She's an investigative reporter. In about 15 minutes, we'll bring on Natalie. We're going to have a live discussion about the Hunter Biden laptop. And speaking of which, one of the big stories right now is that a Trump-appointed prosecutor is allegedly the one who may be looking into... Sorry, 1 second. Let me switch my connection. All right, 1 sec. I apologize, folks. We're just having a few issues here, trying to deal with that. All right, sorry about that. Switching to a better connection. We're still getting a wired connection in the office, just getting set up here. Folks, one of the big stories right now is the Hunter Biden laptop and the big question on whether Hunter might be indicted. The one who's going to make this call is a Trump-appointed prosecutor. And of course, Special Counsel John Durham is now beginning the trials looking into Sussman, one of the individuals tied with the Clinton campaign and the framing of the whole fake Trump-Russia thing, which is going to be interesting as well, another story. Right now as well, we're going to be looking into talking about today Hunter Biden and Joe Biden as well, and their ties on business, finance, and so on, also according to some investigative reports. Folks, that said, it's great having you all here. Again, we'll be bringing on Natalie Winters, special guest in about 15 minutes. That says jump into a few stories first. All right, I want to go over first what we're talking about with the Hunter Biden maybe indicted. I mean, we'll see what happens. A lot of different media are talking about the possibilities of this. This is not some right-wing thing. CBS News right here. Let me show you. Let's bring this up. CBS News first. All right. It says Hunter Biden case could thrust low-key prosecutor, so they call him, into public spotlight. This is a Trump-appointed prosecutor who may be the one in charge of deciding whether or not to indict Hunter Biden. Let's go over this briefly. It says here, U.S. Attorney David Weiss has managed to stay out of the spotlight for much of his 20-year, sorry, not Trump-appointed, Republican, for much of his 20-year career as a federal prosecutor, but that might soon change. Weiss now finds himself overseeing the politically charged investigation into Hunter Biden's possible tax violations and other aspects of his business dealings. It's more than just tax issues. I'll explain, but it's going to do a bit more. It says the 66-year-old Weiss, a Republican, will have to decide whether there is sufficient evidence to seek a federal grand jury indictment against the son of a sitting president, Democrat Joseph Biden. Now, briefly on this, we showed you the CBS side of this. Let me show you the Breitbart side of this because they have a different take on it. Real quick, also, right now, the Republicans in the House allegedly have a copy of the Hunter Biden laptop. It seems that there's a bit of a mix-up on like how many laptops there are and which ones people are looking at. The main stories, of course, were on the one that he left at the computer repair shop. That one is the one that was making rounds. There's rumors, of course, several individuals, including one of the guys who was with War Room Pandemic, talking about the possibility, claiming that he has restored 450 gigabytes of data from that laptop. Other individuals like Kim.com, might remember Mega Upload, now saying that they've recovered this as well. Rumor right now, we'll keep that in the space of rumor. Maybe Natalie Winters knows something about this. We'll bring her on in a bit. But let's go over a bit more of what's happening on the process, the potential grand jury indictment. Now, Breitbart says this. Let's jump into that. It says again, Trump-appointed prosecutor. They're saying Trump-appointed, which is weird because he's been in office. He's been there for 20 years. All right, someone has it wrong. We're not sure who. It says here, David Weiss again weighs the Hunter Biden indictment. Now, it says this. Media reports have revealed Hunter is under investigation by the FBI for tax fraud, money laundering, and the violation of lobbying laws. Now, notice that the CBS story didn't mention the money laundering or the violation of lobbying laws. They just mentioned the tax fraud, potential tax violations, as they said, right? Continuing, though, it says Joe Biden, again, a reminder of why you should read multiple news outlets, because some of them leave stuff out like this, and some of them also have contradicting information. Like, for example, the Trump-appointed prosecutor, it looks like the guy's been there for 20 years. Now, someone has a story wrong. All right, it says here, Joe Biden has brazenly claimed over and over again that he does not know about his family's corrupt business dealings. Even though he was on the communications with Hunter Biden, he's acknowledged Hunter Biden's various activities, and he's even spoken publicly acknowledging maybe that he helped get a prosecutor fired in Ukraine, for example, around Burisma, as Hunter Biden was making deals with them. But continuing on this, won't go over the whole thing. Deeper into it, it says this. But text messages, photos, and reported meetings, such as the one I just mentioned, suggest Joe Biden has abundant knowledge of the Biden family's entrenched business scheme. It says on at least 11 occasions over 6 years, Joe Biden was involved in the Biden family business while he was at the top levels of government, including member vice president under Barack Obama. It continues further saying this. Hunter has earned millions of dollars from foreign entities from numerous countries by peddling Joe Biden's influence. And there's even now analysis coming out of the different code names they were using for Joe Biden in Hunter Biden's communications. Now it says, while not illegal, Hunter and his family may have committed crimes of tax fraud, money laundering, and the violation of lobbying laws. I think they're suggesting that Hunter may have committed crimes, again, tax fraud, money laundering, violations of lobbying laws, which would be illegal. But I think they're suggesting that him being just Joe Biden's son doesn't automatically implicate Joe Biden. That's what they're suggesting. It says, according to CBS News, U.S. banks have flagged over 150 suspicious financial transactions from Hunter and James Biden being Joe Biden's brother, Hunter Biden's uncle. Now, I won't go over this whole thing, but let me show you a quick tweet. This is from RNC Research. Let me pull this up real quick. Because, again, this ties into some more details where Joe Biden may actually himself also be implicated in this. Now, this is from NBC News here, under, again, RNC Research. It says, while trying to set up a Chinese private equity fund, Hunter Biden traveled to China with his father in 2013 aboard Air Force Two. Remember, Joe Biden was vice president at the time. During the trip, Hunter introduced Joe to his Chinese business partner. 10 days later, China issued Hunter's firm a business license. So, anyways, this whole issue is getting much bigger, and it's expanding. There's a possibility Hunter might be indicted. Again, a Republican prosecutor. It's not clear whether he was Trump appointed. He's been there for 20 years. Again, there's contradicting reports on that. I'll look into that. But again, this individual, the Republican, is going to be the one in charge of deciding whether or not to assemble a grand jury to begin looking into Hunter Biden. And Republicans in the House, as they very likely have a strong chance at, taking the House in the upcoming midterm elections, they're talking right now about maybe assigning a special prosecutor similar to Durham to begin looking into Hunter. Those of you curious as well, the tea today is a Taiwanese oolong tea. Now, I want to go a bit more into some of the overlap between Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and the broader Biden family, because this is really the big, again, it's one issue if you have a guy who's addicted to crack and so on, traveling around the world making what looked like really underhanded business deals. It's another thing, which is why the Hunter Biden story is so big, when that individual is leveraging the position of a family member who's in politics to get those business deals, which wouldn't necessarily implicate the family member who's in politics, but it's a whole other issue if there's a shared platform where the money from these deals leveraging the position benefits the person in position. And that is where the direction of all this is heading right now. And that's what this story right here shows. From Just the News, again, John Solomon, says this: smoking guns. Joe Biden referred business and mingled finances with son Hunter, messages show. Now, again, these stories are just coming out right now. Stories fully kind of unfolding. But if this is the case, that Joe Biden referred business to Hunter Biden, in other words, he was helping Hunter get business while in office, that's one thing. But if he mingled his finances with Hunter, meaning what the business he referred to Hunter financially benefited him, that is where you get possible crimes. That is where things get much bigger. Let's go into this. It says this. President Joe Biden was more involved in Hunter Biden's financial and business dealings than previously acknowledged, allowing his son to pay some of his bills, diverting one of his tax refunds to his son, rubbing elbows with the first son's foreign clients, and even directly referring a friend who wanted to do some work with his son, according to email and text messages reviewed by Just the News. Now, I'll go over this a bit more. It says, Jeff Cooper asked for you, Joe Biden texted his son, sending along a phone number and a well-to-do trial lawyer and longtime Joe Biden donor. Wants to do some work with you. Love, Dad. The summer 2018 message is one of the clearest pieces of evidence gathered by FBI and congressional investigators that Joe Biden was not simply a passive bystander in his son's globe-trotting business pursuits, but rather at times assisting and benefiting financially. The messages show. Now, again, Joe Biden, as we just mentioned, denies that he has knowledge of his son's globe-trotting and business deals all around the world. Text messages contradict that, showing it's, again, based on the validity of Just the News, John Solomon, based on the validity of this, suggesting that Joe Biden not only was aware of Hunter Biden's business dealings, but was involved in helping Hunter Biden get these business dealings. Whether or not that's criminal, we'll have to see. But what would be criminal is, again, is if he was financially benefiting from them, which they're also claiming happened. And here's another part. For instance, a string of spring and summer 2010 emails when Joe Biden was vice president, show Hunter Biden and a partner of his Rosemont Seneca firm assisted the White House with documents for Joe Biden's tax returns after his first year in office. Afterwards, they chose to divert the then vice president's Delaware state tax refund to Hunter Biden to pay off money the father owed his son, the emails state. This is another message from Rosemont Seneca. It says, I am depositing it in his account and writing a check in that amount back to you since he owes it to you. Rosemont Seneca official Eric Schwerin wrote in June 2010 about Joe Biden's tax refund. He said, don't think I need to run it by him, but if you want to go ahead. Now, the big part with this is, again, there's a good chance that this stuff may actually lead to an indictment of Hunter Biden. During those trials, Joe Biden may also be implicated. Whether Joe Biden could be charged as sitting president of the United States is another issue. But regardless of this is coming out right during the midterms, meaning it's going to look very bad on Joe Biden. And Democrats are already showing signs, those running for office, that they're trying to distance themselves from Joe Biden and his policies, especially if you have an issue like this. Now, keep in mind the Democrats have already set a precedent. They've already established precedents of the seriousness of someone, president of the United States having shady business deals or tax issues and so on as they were targeting Trump and as they try to dig up dirt on Trump during his entire time in office. Now we see that a lot of the stuff they were accusing Trump of doing, it looks like Joe Biden was actually doing. Again, they never actually got anything on Trump. Nothing stuck. It looks like a lot of the stuff they were accusing Trump of, Joe Biden may have done. Now, again, we'll see what happens with this as more evidence comes out. Based on the early reporting, this does seem to be the case, frankly. But again, innocent till proven guilty. We'll see what comes out with it. All right, that said, folks, Natalie Winters is with us. Let's bring her on now. Natalie Winters. Hey, Natalie, great to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Folks, Natalie Winters, she's an investigative reporter with National Pulse, one of the best reporters out there. She's one of the few other reporters that I know of, because you might remember I do a lot of stuff on China and subversion and the United Front. She's one of the few reporters who's really delved into the stuff and really breaks stories on it all the time. Natalie, you've been doing some great work, actually. I've been paying attention to your reporting.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Natalie, let's talk about Hunter Biden and what's happening with this. I remember, you and I actually, met before in Washington. We had a look at some of Hunter Biden's files. And everybody was focused on the creepy pictures. But, what's the real story? Are the creepy pictures the big deal, or is there something more to it?
Well, I think there's so many buried leads that are contained on the hard drive, and a lot of the stories have leaked out from outlets, including my own, the National Pulse, but even others. But I think there are so many angles that you can really pursue with the hard drive. To me, what I find most interesting is, of course, the foreign business dealings, because as you've said before, I focus primarily on how the Chinese Communist Party works to really subvert the United States' foremost political leaders, thought leaders, people in media, people in academia. So I think you kind of see a perfect walking example of that compromise in Hunter Biden. I've described him before as kind of the Achilles heel of the American political establishment. And I think the Chinese Communist Party knew that. They saw he was surrounded by people who were, just filled with greed and wanted to make a profit. And Hunter Biden obviously had problems of his own, whether I think that's maybe where you get more into the picture territory. I'm, of course, talking about the drugs and the prostitutes and whatever else he was doing. But I think what's the most interesting and most relevant in terms of the political application of the hard drive are the foreign business dealings that are on there. And it's easy to kind of, I think, take a very microscopic or myopic view and look just at what was going on with China, because obviously the United Front, all these various groups that work explicitly to subvert people like Hunter Biden is probably the most existential threat to the United States. But there are also several other countries on there. I'm talking Mexico, Ukraine, and others. So I think that, and really, I think the other big component of the hard drive, which I think is something that people really should be cautious of and careful of when you're watching the current media coverage, is how they spin it, particularly Joe Biden's role in all of these dealings, because it seems that even though the hard drive is getting a lot more attention now, it's sort of a misdirection play in the sense that it's just focused on Hunter Biden and his business dealings, his taxes, his financial records. But the smoking gun, I think, at least in terms of the applicability to who's sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now, allegedly Joe Biden, is how he was involved and really leveraged his office as then vice president to help Hunter Biden kind of work as the bag man for the Biden family.
Well, explain that to us. Well, first off, briefly, one of the big questions is whether, why didn't Hunter register as a foreign agent? Did you see examples, under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA? Have you seen examples of Hunter discussing this or suggesting that he might need to register as a foreign agent, or, why didn't he? Because it seems like these foreign business dealings would require him to do that under normal circumstances.
Yeah, so this whole Foreign Agent Registration Act, I think, is a really great point, just in the fact that he never registered, but really just epitomizes, I think, the double standard between people like Hunter Biden and people who basically aren't Democrats. I'm, of course, talking about people like Rudy Giuliani, who saw his house raided, in the very early morning for failing to allegedly register as a foreign agent to do some work with you know how the story goes. Meanwhile, you have Hunter Biden, who, again, even public business records, you don't even necessarily need the hard drive to corroborate it, show that the kind of work he was doing, say, even working with CEFC China Energy, which is part of China's United Front, that's their foreign influence kind of department, political warfare at its finest. He was working with them. In one email, he refers to himself as the, quote, managing director of CEFC China Energy. So that right there would require enough for Foreign Agent Registration Act. And so the Foreign Agent Registration Act goes all the way back to, I believe it's 1948. It used to be the Department of State. Now it's with the Department of Justice, but it's anyone who's working on behalf of a foreign entity, a foreign country, and representing their interests here in the United States. They need to register so you can see that what they're saying, their talking points, who they're potentially advocating for, it's not just altruistic. It's not out of the goodness of their heart. It's because the person signing their check is making sure they're saying that. And that's exactly what you saw going on with Hunter Biden. So I think the fact that, he hasn't really been indicted for not registering as a foreign agent shows you the double standard there quite brazenly. And as far as I've seen from any of the emails, text messages, pictures, I never saw any indication that there was, any Foreign Agent Registration Act talk. Again, that doesn't mean it's not there. Again, you're talking about a hard drive with, thousands and thousands of data points. The metadata on it is massive. So it's not, I would say, possible to see everything. But he never registered. That, I think, is all the evidence you need right there. And again, like I said, I think his role, his leadership role, within CEFC China Energy. Again, an explicit front group operated by the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, that alone would qualify you as a foreign agent, yet he's nowhere in the logs.
Yeah. So, Natalie, I want to talk to you about kind of some of the ties to Joe Biden. I also want to talk to you about, because I know you do a lot with War Room and Steve Bannon, also about these rumors of the 450 gigabytes they claim they've recovered from it. Just to get your opinion on it. But first, folks, we're going to jump over exclusively to Epic TV. So if you don't have an account, go in the description below the video. If you're on Rumble or YouTube, go in the description below. We're going to give you a 15-day free trial. Click that link. Come join us. We're going to continue this discussion over on Epic TV. Before we jump over, though, quick trailer. We had an interview with Kyle Bass on our show, American Thought Leaders, talking about how the digital currencies, these new digital yuan, is a blackmail weapon. Show you that, then we'll jump over. Just a sec. Okay, sorry about that. I feel like maybe we're just having some technical issues in the back end. All right, so Natalie, let's continue this discussion then. I want to talk about what's happening with, again, when we're talking about these rumors of these 450 gigabytes of data. Can you explain to me a bit? I mean, have you heard anything? Well, actually, let's jump over first. So we'll jump over first, folks, then we'll go into this. So again, folks, if you don't have an account yet, Epic TV, go into the description below the video if you're on YouTube or Rumble. Click that link, get your 15-day free trial. We'll jump over now. All right, folks. Thank you for being here. All right, so Natalie, these rumors of the 450 gigabytes of data, I mean, I know you do a lot with Steve Bannon and War Room. Is this a rumor? What have you heard anything about this? Where are things at with this?